Imagine a world where the boundaries between space and Earth are no longer so distinct. As humanity ventures further into the cosmos, the idea of farming on distant planets becomes a reality. The question is, could space farming change the way Earth's wildlife evolves? For millions of years, life on Earth has been shaped by the planet's unique conditions: gravity, atmosphere, and the resources available. Animals have adapted to their environments, using their evolutionary traits to survive and thrive. But now, with space farming becoming a growing possibility, we must consider how this new frontier could influence Earth's wildlife in unforeseen ways. Space farming, in essence, is the cultivation of crops in outer space. It involves growing plants in controlled environments, often in space stations or extraterrestrial surfaces, where gravity is weaker and the atmosphere is non-existent or highly controlled. While the idea of growing crops in space is groundbreaking, it also brings new questions about how Earth's ecosystems could be influenced by these changes. Let's first explore how space farming might impact the animals that depend on plants for food. In the controlled environments of space farms, plants would be grown in artificial soil, under artificial light, and without the regular fluctuations of weather and seasons. This stability could lead to a new type of agricultural abundance on Earth. With the potential to harvest plants more efficiently, food security could be vastly improved. But what does this mean for wildlife? As Earth's ecosystems are delicately balanced, any increase in available food sources would inevitably influence animal behavior and population dynamics. Herbivores would likely see a shift in their foraging habits. With an abundance of crops being cultivated in space, some of this produce might end up back on Earth, either directly or through space trade initiatives. Animals may adapt to new food sources that were once unavailable in nature. Imagine a scenario where certain herbivores develop new traits to take advantage of the crops being grown in space. They might evolve specialized digestive systems capable of processing more nutrient-dense plants that are grown in these space farms. Species that previously only survived in wild environments might become more reliant on these new, engineered crops, creating new opportunities and challenges for evolution. For carnivores, space farming could have a more indirect influence. The rise of space farms could encourage a population boom of herbivores that feed on space-grown plants, leading to a surge in prey species. This, in turn, could lead to an increase in predator populations as the abundance of food supports their growth. A planet that once struggled with predator-prey imbalances might see an adjustment as both sides of the food chain find new equilibrium points. But there's a more profound consequence to consider. Space farming might alter the very nature of animal movement and migration. Imagine if humans successfully developed farming techniques in microgravity environments that could support life without the strict limits of Earth's gravity. Would this radically alter the way animals, especially migratory species, adapt their patterns? Some species might evolve to take advantage of these new, abundant food sources. Migratory animals, birds, whales, and even insects could shift their seasonal migrations to align with the timing of space harvests. For example, the timing of crop availability on Earth could sync with animal migration routes, creating a new cycle of ecological dependence. Moreover, if space farming techniques are brought to different planets or moons with conditions unlike those of Earth, it could trigger an interplanetary agricultural exchange. Animals might be introduced to alien environments, and their interaction with non-Earth crops could lead to unforeseen evolutionary changes. Take, for example, the introduction of Earth animals into space farms, or vice versa. Alien species might be cultivated in space. Over time, the interplay between Earth's wildlife and alien agriculture could lead to cross-species interactions that have never before been seen. It's not far-fetched to imagine animals adapting to extraterrestrial foods that humans begin to cultivate for the purpose of interplanetary trade. On Earth, these new agricultural products could stimulate entirely new ecosystems. Space-grown crops might introduce genetic mutations into plant species that wild herbivores begin to incorporate into their diet. This could alter how these animals develop. With genetically modified crops that are more resilient to pests or harsh conditions, herbivores could evolve more specialized immune systems. But what about the predators? In this new agricultural world, their evolutionary path might change as well. New prey species may evolve that are less defensive, having become accustomed to living in controlled environments. These prey species might become less cautious, leading to an increase in predatory behavior. Alternatively, the predators themselves could adapt to hunting these newly evolved species, requiring new skills to exploit them effectively. The evolutionary race wouldn't stop there. Climate change, which is already affecting Earth's wildlife, could interact with the innovations of space farming. With new techniques for controlling crops in space, we could potentially use these farming methods to combat some of Earth's environmental crises, such as desertification or food shortages. But the adaptations required by wildlife to survive in these new environments could lead to the emergence of entirely new behaviors. Species could evolve to adapt to rapidly shifting climates, while others might migrate to newly formed ecosystems spurred by agricultural advances in space. Finally, consider the long-term effects of space farming on genetic diversity. If human expansion into space leads to the cultivation of alien species on Earth, or vice versa, we could see an entirely new form of cross-species interaction. The genetic crossover between Earth's wildlife and interplanetary crops could produce new evolutionary pressures. Species may evolve traits previously thought impossible, resulting in unique hybrid animals or entirely new ecosystems forming in Earth's biosphere. As we look to the stars and consider the possibility of farming beyond our planet, it's clear that space farming could have far-reaching implications for life on Earth. It would not only change how we produce food, but also influence how animals adapt to their ever-evolving environments. From changes in animal diets and migration patterns to entirely new forms of interplanetary ecological interactions, space farming might be the catalyst for the next stage of evolution on Earth. One thing is certain: life, whether on Earth or in the vast reaches of space, will continue to evolve in response to the challenges and opportunities presented by new environments. Whether it's a small tweak in how animals interact with crops or a dramatic shift in the entire balance of nature, the future of life on Earth will always be shaped by the endless adaptability of nature's creatures. As humanity pushes the limits of space exploration and begins to farm the stars, the question remains: what will evolution look like when the boundaries between Earth and space are no longer so clearly defined?